What's going down, D-Gens? That's official. The NFL season is back. Let's fucking go. Already got a win on the books in week 1 with the Chiefs and the Lions. Actually got, a couple wins. So, number one, right off the top, guys, and I'm bringing this up not just to like pat myself on the back, but because it is very, very difficult to make a video every single time I see a play come up on the board or something that maybe just kind of pops up to my attention. And I would love to share everything with you guys. The problem is I can't stop what I'm doing and make a video, maybe a short, but it's going to get more and more, we are going to get more and more information as we continue going on throughout the season. And so again, to try and stop and make a video, make a short every time I see something is pretty difficult. But if you would, please stop whatever else you are doing. Go to Twitter or X or XXX or, well, I have a different profile on that one, but x.com. Follow me at AG_sports21. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to boost followers. I really don't give two shits. The reason I'm saying this is because I put out some plays throughout the week, prop plays, season-long plays, injury-related plays, stuff like that that's going to come up and it's going to be split second. And if you are not quick with your trigger finger, you're going to miss the line. And that goes for literally everything I just said. Props, injuries, whatever. And so you need to have quick access to this. And the fastest way for me to do this is to just throw it into Twitter or X. And as soon as you see it, if you have something in the bankroll, put something on there if you want to follow it. If not, obviously, fuck me. But I'm just saying, if there's something I put out there you like, you're going to need to take advantage of it as soon as possible. Now, so far, what I wanted to talk about right now is the prop plays. So, prop for last night was the Gibbs over 37.5 rushing yards. Now, that one hit. He ended up with 42 rushing yards, so went over there. He didn't have as many carries as I thought he was going to have, but the Chiefs were just as bad at stopping the run as I thought they were going to. A couple things went into that. Number one, the Chiefs have traditionally been really shitty at stopping the run ever since they started this Super Bowl dynasty. A lot of that is because they don't give a shit if you want run for the most part. They're going to let you. The way that they feel is, look, they can score in 90 seconds typically. And if you're going to run, and you're going to take 10 minutes to score, well, that's fine because we're going to come back and we're going to score in a minute. And you're right back in square one and you have to play perfectly to try to beat us. So they don't really try to stop the run. And it shows. Now, they're without Chris Jones, and they're struggling that much more now that they don't have him. So that's all that went into that, and I'm saying that also because it's probably going to be something we want to look into next week with Travis Etienne. But that being said, that was just the first one. One other thing I wanted to talk about props is that any of these plays that you see here, if you like them, great, follow them, put some money on them, whatever you want to do. One thing that I've noticed is if you go to certain books, some of these have bigger lines or bigger, more juice. And so instead of paying minus 135 or minus 140 or whatever, what you can do, especially with something like Prize Picks, with Phantom Plays, whichever market you want to use for those props, they pretty much all give you one free square, right? I think this week with Prize Picks, which is probably the most popular, the free square is like Dak Prescott over half a yard passing, right? So basically it's a gimme. Now, they are thinking most people are going to go in there. They're going to try to hit a fucking 5-leg parlay. And so the one free box they give you, it's fine. They don't really give a shit because, you know what? You're going to put in 5 guys and you're probably going to fuck up one of the other ones and you're going to lose. And that free square doesn't mean anything. What I'm telling you is don't do that. Take the one free square because you can take that free square as many times. It's not like other promos where you take it once and that's it. It's gone. You can take it, like this week, you can take Dak Prescott and then, match him up. Here we go. I'll show you a picture right here. So Dak Prescott and then Gibbs on the over. This is a side bet from what I had just in a sports book. But this pays 3-1. So you're going to take the plus 300 over the minus, 120, minus 130, minus 110, whatever it is you're getting at your sports book, and they're just handing this out to you. So if you don't already, make an account with, like I said, I think Phantom Plays is the new one, and they have some pretty cool little bonuses. Prize Picks is probably the more popular one, and that's the one that's here with Dak, the over half a yard passing. So like I said, take the better odds, take the plus 300. Don't put that free square in big, huge parlays. Do it one at a time. Go to Dak and Gibbs. Dak and our next one would be Nick Chubb over half a touchdown. So Dak and then Chubb to get a touchdown. Dak and Zay Flowers over 35.5 yards. Dak and Derrick Henry under 90 rushing yards. So these are the props I'm putting out there. Like I said, it's up to you as far as how you want to play them, if you want to play them. And I'm just going to break them down real quick. Nick Chubb over half a touchdown. So obviously Nick Chubb to score a touchdown anytime. At 3-1, that's amazing, because if you go bet that at any sports book, you're going to get basically like a minus money. I think it's like minus 115 right now. Nick Chubb, that doesn't really need a whole lot of explanations. He's going to be one of, if not the number one option for that Cleveland Browns team. And against the Bengals, who are not really great at stopping the run to begin with, Nick Chubb should have a pretty good day on the ground. And especially once they get in the red zone, they should be looking to Chubb to score any way he can, but most likely on the ground. The Bengals play a lot of too high safeties, which you've probably heard that a million times already. But when you put too high safeties, you're taking somebody out of the box. You're giving Nick Chubb that much more room to run. Rachaad White, over 44.5 rushing yards. I've been saying this all offseason. The Vikings, until they prove me wrong, I'm going to continue with the assumption, just like I did with the Chiefs for this week, that they cannot stop the run. They could not stop the run last year. We banged them every single time we could on the running back props, on the teams that we thought were going to run all over them, like the Cowboys, like the Eagles. And we were going to hammer them every single time they played against a strong running team. I'm going to do it again right now, week 1. Rachaad White, over 44.5 rushing yards. He should be their number one option, or he is their number one option as far as running backs are concerned. And with the Vikings having such a high-powered offense, it makes sense that the Buccaneers would want to run the ball, kind of slow it down a little bit. They know they have Baker Mayfield back there. They shouldn't be asking this guy to throw 40 times. They should want to just kind of slow the game down, keep possession. And you have just a shitty head coach who thinks that's the best way to win anyways. So Rachaad White, over 44.5 rushing yards. Calvin Ridley, over 58.5 receiving yards. The Colts have a bottom 10 secondary. So the Jaguars going in there should really be focused on pass first. And now obviously you have Trevor Lawrence, who's, top 10 quarterback right now in the NFL, at least fantasy wise. Calvin Ridley's the new toy. He's the new weapon. Looked really good in preseason. Got a lot of really good rave reviews from everybody in that Jaguars team, including media members, saying he's like the best receiver they've ever had on the team. Give me Calvin Ridley as our number one option, over 58.5 yards, to pick apart that weak Colts secondary, especially because the Colts actually have a really good front seven. I think it's going to be a tough ask for somebody like Travis Etienne to put up a whole bunch of rushing yards, mainly because, again, the Colts just have a really good front seven, and that's where they're going to put their emphasis at. So why try to bang your head against the rock? Just throw right over them. It's going to be there. With Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, pick your poison. In my case, so I do think Calvin Ridley is going to be their number one option. He's just the bigger player, the younger player, the more explosive player. Typically, right? He should be able to get more yards on this. Really, this could just be 3 big passes for Calvin Ridley, and you got the over. Zay Flowers, over 35.5 yards. If you've been listening to this channel at all this summer, you know I'm really high on Zay Flowers. I'm high on the Ravens in general. Zay Flowers, though, looks even better every single week. Not just on the field, not just in practice reports, not just in the chemistry with Lamar Jackson, but the fact that Rashad Bateman is just now getting back to practice. I just read a report this morning, which is September 8th, a Friday, so 2 days before the first game, that Rashad Bateman is finally healthy from his foot injury. Finally, they're saying he's 100%. The guy hasn't really practiced, at least not a full practice, the entire offseason. Odell Beckham just got put on the injury report with an ankle injury. Now, who knows how real that is? Maybe it's just a tweak and he just took the day off or whatever. Either way, though, if you watched preseason, and again, I know it's preseason, you can't get everything from that, but if you watched preseason, You know that Zay Flowers was an early and often target for backup quarterbacks, and I have got to imagine Lamar's going to do the exact same thing. He's one of the only guys that's gotten game time action this entire preseason, right? Beckham hasn't played much, if any. Rashad Bateman definitely has not played any. Zay Flowers is going to be targeted very heavy and often in this game. I wouldn't hate it if he took the anytime touchdown with Zay Flowers, but definitely the over 35.5 yards. Again, this could just be 3 to 4 catches, at 40 yards, and that's all you need to hit the over. Last one here, Derrick Henry, and it's the under. Now, if you guys have been paying attention, and I apologize if you're new to the channel, first of all, thank you for watching. But if you are new, please understand that I do a lot of unders when it comes to scores, totals, all that kind of stuff. Props, I do like the unders as well. But this first week, I think more value is on the overs if you get to it early, which I did. Derrick Henry, though, under, everybody assumes that guy's going to do great, and I do too. I know he's a great player. I'm not calling for the for the fall off of Derrick Henry or anything like that, but he's playing against a Saints defense who has traditionally been really great at stopping the run. Derrick Henry typically has a slower start. Derrick Henry's play style is, I'm going to keep running at you and running at you and running at you and running at you, and by the time we get to this fourth quarter, your ass is going to be tired, and I'm going to keep lowering the shoulder. I'm going to run right the hell over you. And it's awesome. It works. And I love watching it. And it's awesome. And I love the guy as a player. The problem with that, it kind of, if you guys are boxing fans at all, reminds me of like Ali Foreman, right? Like the rope-a-dope with Ali. The problem is you got to get the other guys tired. And week 1 is not the best time to do that. Week 1, these guys, especially the starters, have not, they haven't been banged up yet. They haven't been hurt yet. It's not week 12. It's not week 15. These guys are, maybe not mid-season form, but they're in good condition. They're completely healthy. They're fresh. It's just, it's indoors. They're playing in New Orleans in the Superdome. Derrick Henry's play style is not really conducive to week 1. And match that with the fact that the Saints have a great run-stopping defense. Now, they did lose their defensive line coach, but I think that those guys are still in place. The coaching staff, aside from the defensive line coach, still there. They're still going to put emphasis on stopping the run. Coming in against the Titans, they're going to dare them to use DeAndre Hopkins or the passing game to beat them. I don't believe they're going to let Derrick Henry run right over them. Give me Derrick Henry under 90 yards. So those are the prop plays for week 1. Like I said, do with them what you want. I would just urge you, though, especially if some of these, which, I think all of them are probably going to be, forcing you to pay some juice if you take a sports book look at it, try to put it into something like a Prize Picks, get the plus 300 and just use that free square. The other win for the week, and the one that you would have missed if you're not following me on Twitter, is the under for that Chiefs-Lions game. So this was yesterday afternoon when they officially announced Kelsey was out. Again, it just, at that time, I grabbed it at under 53. It had already been down to bet down to 52.5, and I believe by kickoff it was down to 52. So it just continually dropped. Obviously, it was a win for us. But again, that's just another reason I do ask that you follow me on Twitter. Like I said, even on the YouTube channel, I may try and pitch you guys some sports books, but I don't typically try to outright sell you stuff. This is strictly just so you can get the best line as soon as I find out, whatever important information is coming up throughout the week. So let's go into the rest of week 1 and the plays for this week. This is most likely, or this is going to be, I can tell you right now, the heaviest volume week for me, most likely throughout the entire NFL season. Maybe there's a week here and there, maybe, something like, I don't know, Thanksgiving or Super Bowl playoffs, something like that, where maybe there's another heavy week. But week 1 is traditionally the heaviest week for me, volume-wise, only because these lines have been up for a long time. I've been studying this stuff since, early June, late May, probably really even earlier than that. And a lot of these lines do get posted, I would say, late May. And we can kind of start picking those apart. Now, essentially everything other than one game went our way, meaning that the closing line value is on our side, and so that's what the CLV stands for. If you're looking at the screen here, I've explained this before, but just again for anybody who's new out here, closing line value is really the way to tell if you are at least on the right path when it comes to the plays that you're picking and what you're actually putting your money down on. At the end of the day, most of these plays are going to come down to a coin flip, and I can't stress that enough. Watch all of the NFL games, look at all the lines, all that kind of stuff, and just count any given week how many of those games, especially when you include the spread, come down to the last drive, the last 4 minutes, whatever it is. And that's just the way the NFL is. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way coaches play the game. I don't want to say that's the way it's supposed to be. I wouldn't fucking play like that, but that's the way that coaches play, and that's the way that the NFL makes things, and that's the way it's conducive, and that's what makes it so fun to watch, right? It gives it so much parity. So when you're looking at these lines, the line right before kickoff, I've explained this before, is exactly that. It is a 50-50 coin flip. And that is to say, all of the information's been hammered into that line. Injuries, depth charts, play styles, coaches, all that stuff. It's already in the line. Everybody has all the information they're going to have. So right before kickoff, it is truly a 50-50. However, you're not paying for a 50-50 chance to win. You have to pay vig. You're paying at least the minus 110 if you're just taking one side or the other, which means you really have to hit at a 52 to 53% win rate to just break even. So 52% to break even, really. But you're really only getting a 50-50 chance. And that's how the books make their money, right? So your vig, obviously that gets held regardless, because half the people lose, half the people win. The people that win, they don't win 110 back. They win 100 even though they bet 110. And the people that lose, obviously they lose the full 110. So either way, the book is keeping that money. But more importantly, anybody who's taking these last minute lines, you're really not doing yourself any favors. If you bet early, like we did on just about all of these, and the line moves in your direction, you're going to have more and more points on your side. Every half point you get is worth 1.5% win expectancy. Every full point, of course, is worth 3% of a win expectancy. So if you need 52% to just break even, if you can get to 53%, then obviously you're going to start making some money. But the easiest way to do that is to say, hey, I got a line on Monday at, let's say, at +3. When it came to actual kickoff, it was at +2. Well, you got the better line. You got the 1 point. That means you got the 3% win expectancy, which means you should win 53% of the time. And that means exactly that. It means you're going to win you should win 53% of the time. It doesn't mean you're winning every single time. It doesn't mean closing line value is the end all be all. That's all you got to look at. It just means the numbers are in your favor at that point, and you're doing it right. You're getting ahead of the lines. You're kind of projecting the market correctly. You're seeing things clearly. Again, you're going to lose some of those. It's just the way it works. Don't get pissed. Don't get mad. Don't chase your fucking losses. Please, I can't say that enough. Don't chase your losses. Sunday night, you're down 2 units. If you didn't have something on the Sunday night game already, don't do it. Don't live bet it. Don't look at it. If you have to sit there and think and contemplate and really, really try to break down a game to get a side that you like, it's not a side that you like. It's a side that you're forcing, and you're most likely going to lose those. I'm telling you from experience, so please don't do it. I'm trying to save you your own damn money. But all of that is to say, again, on all of these, except for the one game, we got closing line value. So Ravens -9.5 is what we took it at. It's currently at -10. The one that we didn't get, and you know what, let me just bring this over here, make it a little bit clearer for us here. So these are all of the plays. Ravens -9.5, Falcons -3, Steelers +3, Jaguars -3.5, and then the Giants +3. Giants is the only one that went against us. Giants are currently at +3.5, which is good for you, because if you want to take it now, you're going to get that extra half point. Everything else has, again, moved with us. So Ravens is down to -10. Falcons is at -3.5. Steelers is, depending on where you're looking, either +2.5 or +2. Jaguars is -4.5, -5, depending, again, on where you're looking at. So all of those that have moved with us, they have given us 51%, 51.5% at least, win expectancy. On 2 of them, the Steelers and the Falcons, because it moved through 3, we got it at 3, and it moved through that number. So again, Steelers down to 2.5, Falcons up to minus 3.5. We really, it's worth just a little bit more than the 1.5. So it's a 52% win expectancy rate. The way that the 3s work, just so that you guys know, and it's again not perfect in every single game or every single year, but just kind of the more or less, give or take here. When you get a line that's at 3, whether it's plus or minus 3, you're going to win 45% of the time, you're going to lose 45% of the time, but you're going to push 10% of the time. And that's why that 3 is so important. So if you get the 3, let's say you get plus 3, like on the Steelers in this case, you have a 55% chance here, because there's a 10% chance you're going to push, 45% chance you're going to win, so a 55% chance that you at least, again, get the push, and you have a 45% chance of losing. So, again, the numbers are just working in your favor. Now, once that goes over to the minus or to the 2.5, well, now you are on the 45% chance. So you have the 45% chance of winning. The sportsbook has the 55% chance of themselves winning, and there's no longer a chance for a push because it's now at a half. Same thing with the minus 3 on the Falcons to go to 3.5. So it's just very important that you get the best lines when possible. All of the stuff that I've been saying all off season, as far as like in the Falcons case, we talked about the Panthers having a rookie quarterback. Frank Reich is in his first year. They've had a lot of injuries. They're still dealing with injuries. They just marked DJ Chark out for the game this week. Adam Thielen may not play now. All of these things that I have been saying since mid-July at the very latest, at least, they are just now saying that on ESPN, on other betting websites and pages and YouTube channels and whatever else. And a lot of that, it makes sense. We're in week 1. They're going to start talking about it. Those lines are going to move. And I've been able, and luckily, I've been able to forecast most of these correctly. And that's why they moved with us. And now whoever's coming in is going to have to get the worst line. And if there was something you don't like now you could hedge out of it if you wanted to, and you at least have a chance to middle. Like, let's say I didn't like the Jags anymore. Now I could take the other side at plus 4.5 or plus 5 with the Colts, and at least have a chance to middle. Not very likely, but it's there. So that's that. The over-unders, though, we did have 4 of those as well. Bengals, Browns under 48. Packers, Bears under 44.5. Raiders, Broncos under 44.5. Cowboys, Giants under 47. All of those did move with us, so that's good. And if the Chiefs-Lions game is anything like the rest of these games, those unders are looking really juicy right now. They didn't work out for us in the preseason, and that obviously sucked. A lot of the defenses just weren't where we expected them to be. I do expect them to work for us now, especially because all of the games that I have listed on here for the unders are all divisional games. So a lot of these divisional games, the teams know each other pretty well. Obviously, it's first week of the season, so they know more or less how they want to play it, what's going on. They typically do a pretty good job of kind of keeping each other in check. The games don't usually get too out of hand. But most importantly, in week 1, these offenses, at least the starters, have not really had a whole lot of playing time, whereas the defenses, maybe not all of the starters, but just kind of the rotationary players have been in there. They have been playing. They have been tackling. They've been going full speed. The offensive players are typically the ones who get held out. And like in a lot of these cases, like the Bengals, Joe Burrow was hurt. He has not played at all since like the first week or so of actual, camp. A lot of these games, I just see that they're going to be probably lower scoring games, and that's why we have the under. So the biggest one here was that Packers-Bears game. We got it at under 44.5. It's down to 42. So that's a big one. That's the biggest closing line value that we got. 44, if you didn't know, is a key number for totals. For those of you who don't know, the key numbers for totals, typically it's 44, 47, 51. Those are obviously your kind of lower end scoring. Mid tiers at 47, higher end is 51. So if you see a game like, let's say, the Jags-Chiefs, it's probably going to be 51 or 54. 54 and 41 are the kind of outlier key numbers. And that's exactly what it sounds like if a game is really going to be low scoring and everybody knows it. Typically the line will be set at around 41, maybe like 40 and a half, but 41 being the key number there. And actually, coincidentally enough, last night, Lions-Chiefs ended at 41, 54 being the higher end, like almost obviously exceptional offenses playing against each other. Usually it's where the line gets set is about 54. And so on that 54, just kind of keep that in mind because that's going to come up at some point throughout the season, especially as we kind of find out more or less who are the higher powered offenses. But the 44.5 in our case for the Packers-Bears, we got more than the key number. We got over that with the 44.5. Now it's dropped down. It's almost down to the very low key number of 41, and I could see it slipping down a little bit more below the 42 that it's at right now. But if anything, if I had to pick one game and say, hey, this is the one I wish I could have gone harder on, or maybe you can go harder on now if you put it, if you want to buy the point or whatever it is, I would say it's that Packers-Bear game, only because it's such a high expected win rate. So those are the closing line values. Now, going into week 1 and looking ahead into week 2, because again, it's great that we had this closing line value, but we want to get this closing line value every single week, not just week 1. And it does get a lot harder because we don't have 2 months between games, right? We can't sit here like we did in June and July and pick these games apart. You're going to have to get something early and often, and it's most likely going to have to be Monday morning this first week, and then as we get past like week 3 or 4, it's going to start being Sunday night because the lines are going to come out earlier and earlier and earlier. Now, if you listen to other sports betting channels, they're going to tell you, and it's true, you can't get down very much on like Monday morning. Right? The books don't typically allow that. They have a pretty solid line and say, hey, look, we're only accepting X amount of dollars. Now, the good thing is, if you are a more recreational bettor, and I think probably a lot of you are, it's probably not a big deal for you. A lot of times that Monday morning, like very tip top of the how much they'll risk is $500, and so if you have a $500 unit size, you probably don't need to be listening to me. You probably know what the hell you're doing. If you're somebody who's betting $50 or 25 or 100. You really don't have to worry about that. I mean, it's maybe if we get on a real hot streak here and we get like, if let's say we sweep the board and we go 9-0, maybe depending on your unit size, maybe you get limited at some point throughout the season, and that would kind of hurt because then maybe it's like $25 is your limit or whatever, especially on a Monday morning. But for right now, I would say you don't need to worry about that. You get whatever you're going to get down, put the full unit down on a Monday morning. And I always hear people talk about injuries. Well, yeah, like what if somebody, pulls a hamstring or whatever at practice? Okay, it's fine. It's going to happen. You can't not take, what you think is going to be good closing line value because, well, maybe possibly somewhere down the line this happens. Because guess what? If it does, it does. A lot of times, unless it's the quarterback, it's really not going to move the line a whole much. Or much, if at all. And if it does, you can always hedge out of it. You can get off the number, especially because if you bet on Monday, you have typically a full 6 days to put money back down on the other side, whether you're trying to middle or whether you're trying to get out of the game. So keep that in mind as well. But like I was saying, back to the original point here is you want to get these closing line values early and often, and the only way to do that is to know the teams. You need to know who you're looking for, what you're looking for, and what you're supposed to be watching for as you're watching the week 1 games. Now, how many teams can you realistically pay attention to? Because I can tell you myself, unless you have a team of people that it's going to be, watching these with you, you probably don't really have a whole lot of time, right, to be watching 16 games every single week. Even with like the NFL Sunday Ticket, you probably just have, you're watching 2, 3, 4 games on the weekend, and maybe if you're a psycho like me, you're staying up late watching the replays or whatever on like the NFL network or whatever. So pick a handful of teams. Like in my case, I have 10 teams that I'm trying to pay attention to, but I'm realistically going to try and start with just like 4 or 5 of them that I really, really want to watch and break down. And then, because on the flip side of that, it's not just watching those teams, watching them, kind of identifying where their strengths and weaknesses are, and then watching their next week's opponents and seeing where their weaknesses are to make sure that it kind of matches up together. So the teams I'm going to be paying attention to: Falcons, Jaguars, Ravens, Steelers, and the Giants. So those are the 5 teams I'm initially paying attention to. Now the other teams, again, assuming that there's more time throughout the week, that I will also be watching and going through, and eventually I'm going to watch all the games throughout the week. But the other teams listed on here that would get, like, I guess the next tier priority would be the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Saints, the Texans, and the Titans. And the reason it's those 5 teams is because I have a strong inclination one way or the other against those teams, or with those teams, and or it's like a divisional opponent, right? So, like in the case of the Titans, I don't really have a strong feel one way or the other for the Titans. I think they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to be great. I don't think they're going to be bad. But more importantly, I'm really paying attention to that entire division, right? So like the Jaguars, again, really the team I'm looking at, but the Jaguars and the Colts are both already kind of on my board because I have pretty strong convictions on those 2 teams. So the Texans as well, just the other team in that division, I have a pretty strong conviction on. They're probably not going to be good, right? And again, we've gone over that. Rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, all that kind of stuff. So it just makes sense to add the Titans in there because I'm already watching the other 3 teams. This is the team that they're going to match up with twice, at least, right, if they don't meet in the playoffs. So you might as well kind of throw them in there so that you're more prepared for when that game does come up. So like I said, those are the 5 teams I'm starting with. You don't have to start with those 5. Those are probably the 5 that I will be actively talking about the most as we move forward. But on top of that, it'll also be the teams that they are playing against. And on that note, I did set up the Madden algorithm for week 2 to kind of take a look at maybe who's got some value out there. And I did go back and pull the lines from the Warren Sharp book because these lines here are going to show us what they were listed at in the preseason, right, or before the season even started. So like what we're looking at here is the Jaguars Chiefs week 2. The Jaguars were +3. So I will get to them in just a second. The Ravens, though, against the Bengals, week 2, they're playing in Cincinnati. The Madden algorithm has the Ravens as a dog, as about a 1 point to a 1.5 dog, which is saying that there's some value because the preseason line was Ravens +3.5, which great, give me that all day. I will take it if it's there. So obviously the games are going to happen first. We want to watch it, see what's going on, make sure we like the teams, make sure there's no major injuries, anything like that. But if it still comes out, everything's good, no injuries, and the Ravens are listed at +3.5, I'm going to take them right up front, first thing Monday morning when that line drops, because 1, the algorithm is showing that there's value. 2, again, I have a pretty strong feeling about the Bengals as far as the way that they start their seasons, especially with Joe Burrow coming off that injury, not really having a lot of playing time, and then going in expected to just snap right into 100%. I don't think that's the way it's gonna work, and the Bengals traditionally have a hard time stopping the Ravens, and they honestly almost lost them in the playoffs last year. So, and that was without Lamar Jackson. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the Giants. The Giants play the Cardinals week 2. This one is not really going to present a whole lot of value. So for week 1, the Giants did have the biggest value because the Madden spread was really 1. It was saying they should have been +1. Currently it's +3.5. So that's why I took the Giants at +3. I didn't think it was going to get to the +3.5, but whatever. So for week 2, Giants Cardinals says the Giants should be 4-point favorites. They preseason wise they were 4-point favorites. So we'll see what that line comes out at. But if they're anything less than 4, like if they're let's say a 3-point favorite, obviously I'm going to take the Giants +3. And if anything, I may look to do if it is still a 4, instead of trying to buy it down to the 3, which will probably put you at like a -135, -140. You may want to look to do like a money line parlay with the Giants and another team that we feel strongly about. But we'll take a look at that once those lines come out. Next is the Titans-Chargers. Now, this is one of the biggest values, aside from the Ravens, for week 2 as far as the teams that I'm going to be keeping up with. Titans-Chargers, the spread as far as preseason-wise was Titans +3.5. Madden algorithm says they should really be about +1.5 or so. So you're not only getting 2 points of value there, but you're also getting past that key number of 3, which makes it even better. Stylistically, Titans, I just talked about it with Derrick Henry. They're going to try to, their game is to run the ball. Their game is to give it to Derrick Henry and let him go to work. In this one, they are playing at home, but more importantly, they're playing against the Chargers, who were the absolute worst at stopping the run last year, even worse than the Chiefs. So I fully expect that to continue. I don't think they're going to get any better. I don't think they made any real moves to get better at stopping the run in the offseason. So if this does come out at Titans plus 3.5, this is another one I'm going to jump on as soon as possible, because I do see the Titans really just hammering Derrick Henry into that Chargers defensive line all game long and eventually just wearing these guys down. And Derrick Henry probably rips off a couple large runs. And not only that, if and when Derrick Henry needs to get spelled out for a little bit and they put in Tajay Sharp there, that dude is explosive. And if you have not watched him, if you're not aware of who I'm talking about, he's the backup to Derrick Henry. Go back and watch his preseason highlights. Watch his college highlights. The guy is really, really good. He's one of the top-rated running backs that entered the NFL this year, and nobody's talking about him because he's behind Derrick Henry. But mark my words, that guy is going to get worked in more and more and more throughout the season, if nothing else, but just to help wear down that defensive line and help keep Derrick Henry fresh. In this game, if he gets 4, 5, 6, 7 carries, I can totally see that dude putting up 50-plus yards, maybe even breaking off one to the house. But give me the Titans plus the 3.5, assuming that is what the line is when it comes out. Next is the Bucs Bears. Now, this is another high-value game. The Bucs actually had a pretty good value for Week 1. The Madden spread said it should have been like 3 points. But the line, depending on where you're looking at, is around 6 right now. 6, 5.5, 6.5, somewhere like that with the Vikings. The Madden algorithm seems to like the Bucs this year. It's at least saying that they're underrated. So next week, they're playing the Bears. They are playing at home. The spread, the preseason spread, was Bucs plus 2. The Madden algorithm says it actually should be Bucs minus 2. So take that for what you think. The one thing I would state with the Buccaneers is that they have lost a lot of their secondary just due to turnover in the offseason. And if we watch the Bears and they're able to utilize, DJ Moore, I think it could be a rough day for the Buccaneers. I think Justin Fields could kind of take them to task with that secondary. So until I see it and until I believe it, and it may be in Week 1, it may be Week 2 or 3, I'm very hesitant with the Buccaneers. I don't like that coaching staff. I don't like the players. I don't really like a whole lot else other than maybe just the receiving core, and that's about it. So if you want it, it's there. It's a value as far as the algorithm is concerned. I'm just not touching it. But let's look at the next one, which is going to be Falcons-Packers. This is another stylistic game here where the Packers, they were also bottom 5 at stopping the run, along with the Chiefs, along with the Chargers, and in Week 2, they are going to Atlanta to play the Falcons, one of the run-heaviest teams in the NFL, one of the best teams at doing it, and they just got one of the best, or probably the best, rookie running back right now with Bijan Robinson. The spread preseason is Falcons minus 1. Madden algorithm says it should be essentially Falcons minus 1, so there's really not any value there, but I'm telling you right now, watch that Packers game because they are playing the Bears, which luckily for us is another team who obviously likes to run the ball. Watch that game. See how the Packers are reacting to the run, if they're able to stop the run at all. If they can't, and if they're struggling, and if the Bears are ripping off, huge 6, 7, 8 yard runs every single time, or, on a regular basis, especially with a guy like Khalil Herbert, just be warned. I am going to take the Falcons again early, most likely Monday morning, as soon as the line drops. If I see that the Packers are still struggling to stop the run, and I fully expect that they are going to struggle to stop the run, give me the Falcons. Give me the Falcons minus the 1 all day, every day. If nothing else, you may look to, if you're looking to do a moneyline parlay, and it is really truly a minus 1 still, take the Falcons and the Giants together and moneyline them. It may not get you a whole lot better than the minus 110, but it's going to get you better than what you would have to pay with the Giants by themselves, especially if it's like Giants minus 6 or whatever, which it may be by the time that line actually comes out. But I believe we have one more, and we do, which is Jaguars Chiefs. This one, Madden algorithm says the Jaguars should really be about +2. The line before the season starts, it was Jaguars +3. So you do have some value there. I'm not real sure if I'm going to take this game or not. If anything, I may look to take the over in that game. The Jaguars should be able to run on the Chiefs if they decide they want to do that, especially without Chris Jones there. And I don't think he's going to be back there for week 2. But that being said, the Jaguars are not really a run-heavy team. You know, Travis Etienne is good, but he's not getting 25 carries. It's not Derrick Henry. The Chiefs can do pretty much anything, especially if Travis Kelce is back there. They're going to be able to run a little bit. They're going to be able to pass, especially, again, if their number one guy is out there actually for week 2. So even though it's a little bit of line value, I'm probably not taking the Jaguars plus the 3. If anything, maybe teasing it, but I don't think so. I don't really like to tease against the Chiefs, only because if they win, there's nothing stopping the Chiefs from winning by double digits, right? If they're going to win by 3, they could win by 20. Who fucking knows? They're that good. Their offense is that explosive. Now, I do think the Jaguars are going to take advantage of the Chiefs' kind of less than stellar secondary, especially now, again, they have Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk and Travis Etienne coming out of the back and Evan Ingram, and they just have a lot of receiving targets, and the Chiefs are not great at stopping really anything, but they don't really have pieces to match up with everything on the board, and especially since they're not typically getting pressure on the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence should have enough time to properly diagnose those defenses. So, if anything, I may look to take the over on that one, but as of right now, that's just kind of where I'm going to leave it, that there is some line value on there, assuming it is still a 3 when it comes out. One thing I did want to just bring up, throughout the offseason, like I said, we've been talking about football and breaking these down and looking at these things every which way, again, since like late May, which is great. What makes it hard, though, is it does make it a little hard to change gears, right? Or to change your opinion. So if you think that one of these teams is going to be really good, and something happens in the offseason, there's injuries that come up or whatever else, it's kind of hard to rein yourself back in. It's like, oh, you know what, maybe they're not going to be good, because you pretty much already have your mind made up and you've been thinking it for 3 months. Do I have any changed thoughts right now? Anything that I'm like kind of iffy on? To be honest with you, not really. I think the Giants are a team that I was high on in the summer that maybe I'm not as high on now, but I will say I'm still not off of them. I thought they were going to be more valuable, is what I should say. I thought you were going to get better lines with the Giants. The lines that they're putting up there are pretty sharp for where they're at. I do think that their coaching staff is still better than most people give it credit for, and I think that they're going to get more out of these players than pretty much any other coaching staff would. But that's really the only team I can tell you right now that I've maybe just kind of lessened my my stance on them. Last thing here that I want to talk about, again, going back to Sportsbook and possibly, sharing a sportsbook with you or just recommending a book for you. And it's going to be GT Bets. Now, my bookie, I've said this before, they typically put the lines out first. So when I'm saying, hey, you want to take these lines as soon as possible, my bookie is the place to go if you are that person who's going to be watching for the line drops, right? If you're going to be up at Sunday midnight or 1 a.m. on Sunday and you're going to snag something as soon as it comes out, my bookie's probably the best book for you, only because they are the book that's going to put those out. Now, if that's not you, if you know you're going to be going to sleep, after the Sunday night game, you got to get ready for work, whatever it is, perfectly fine. Look into GT Bets. Like I said, they typically are the slower line mover. So, they may not put the lines out until lunchtime on Monday, right? Which could be good for you, because if you're at work and you need to put something in, while you're out to lunch or whatever, that may be the best time for you. But secondly, when the lines start to move, and they will, these guys typically move last or pretty next to last. It's always been the way they have been. They don't like to kind of put their neck out there. They'll wait till everybody else moves the line, and they'll just kind of follow the crowd, which is fine. And it's good for us if you are trying to get some stagnant lines. But on top of all that, they offer a favorite teams option. And this is also for college, but I'm just going to show you the NFL option. When you go to GT Bets and you sign up for an account, you have an option to put 2 favorite teams into your line here. The 2 teams that I'm very high on this year, one team that I'm very high on is the Falcons. The Jaguars, I put them in here because I do believe they are in the easiest division, and I do believe a lot of the lines that they're going to get, especially when they're playing like the Texans, or the Colts, they're going to be around like 3 or 6 or 7. They're going to be right at that key number, and a lot of these are going to be 1-score games. So I just want to get the half point, and that's exactly what this promotion is. Once you select your 2 home teams, once the season starts, you can't change it. Once you've made your first bet, you can't change them, but you are always going to get a half point in your favor. So if we take a look again, Falcons and Jaguars are the 2 that I have selected. And while it's 3.5 everywhere else, and you can even see here in this Atlanta-Carolina game, Carolina's still at plus 3.5 if you wanted to take that side. The Atlanta is at -3. So, and it even says you received a half-point discount for making that your favorite team. Same thing with Jacksonville. It's typically at 5 everywhere else. You can get it at the -4.5 right now. Now, obviously, we got it at -3.5, so really wouldn't say to do that. But if you're looking through these, especially with teams that are what we expect to be lower scoring games or lower scoring teams like Atlanta, I think they're going to be good. I just don't think they're going to be high scoring. Look to take them as your favorite team, because a lot of the times it is going to be around the 3. And if they come out at 3.5 and you're getting this promo, you're going to get the 3, 9 times out of 10. Now, what's the catch, right? That's the good thing. There is no catch. There is no additional betting. There's no additional rollover or anything else to get this promo. You just select your 2 favorite teams, and that's it. So GT Bets, again, they're going to be a little bit slower putting up the lines. And again, that may be actually beneficial for you. But most importantly, you're going to be able to select 2 teams that you're going to get the half point every single game throughout the season, throughout the regular season, that is. And again, you get 1 team for college football, you get 1 team for the NBA, 1 team for college basketball. So you can kind of use this promo everywhere. But what they're expecting is that you get the better line here, you bet more here, you do more volume here, and this becomes one of, if not your primary book. I can tell you that's kind of how they got me. And again, a lot of times you're going to see teams, the ones that I can tell you right up front that I think are going to be the lower scoring teams, but good teams, the Steelers, and they may be higher scoring eventually, but for right now, I think the expectation is they're kind of a defensive team. It shows they're at 2.5 is their line right now. Atlanta, Chicago, those kind of teams. If you were to use the promotion and get the half point, you're getting 3 in a lot of these instances. And then again, as we go throughout the year, that half point and getting off of the key number or to the key number is going to be extremely beneficial to you. So take a look at GT Bets, especially if that's a good fit for you for something that maybe has a line come out a little bit later. Or take a look at my bookie if you are somebody who's going to get them as soon as the line comes out. But either way, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for bearing with me. Have a great week 1. I hope everybody out there has a great NFL season. Good luck. Win some fucking money. Let's fucking go. Have a great day.